I'm Chris Meyer, and this is my testimony. So, I think anyone who knows me or has known me, when they see me in this video, they're going to be very confused. They're going to be like, why is Chris producing a Christian podcast? Why is he giving a testimony about an experience with God? Like, this is not how we know him. And they'd be right. I mean, that's not how I knew me either. My backstory personally is that, amazing parents, amazing family. I felt like I had a very good moral compass, great guidance, amazing father and mother, great coaches, great teachers, great mentors. I was just blessed that I had really good people around me growing up to try to keep me on the straight and narrow. And I definitely wasn't perfect and still made mistakes, but God and religion were not prevalent in my life. We grew up and we're kind of like the family that would, in the beginning, we were trying to go on Sundays, and then, Pop Warner football starts, and that kind of starts to be the place where we spend a lot of our time on weekends and Sundays. So, it really wasn't part of my life. I didn't think I was missing anything, to be honest. And I was pretty suspicious of it. If I was sitting around having conversations with people about religion, I was a bit more abstract. I kind of was we are all the universe. We are all one thing living and experiencing itself. And, I was very heady as a kid and getting into meditation. And I remember one time my mom was like, Chris, not everything needs to have a meaning. And she was probably right about that. I was thinking a little too hard at the time. But so anyways, that's kind of like, I guess, how absent or present God was in most of my life. And you hear stories from people, and they talk about how, like, God shows up when things start to kind of fall apart in your life. So, the vulnerable moment for me is that I was in a relationship with someone for a very long time. I met her in college and traveled the world together and moved in together, and then we moved across the country from Boston to San Diego, and then we're like, all right, we're gonna get married, and we get married, and it's like a 7-year-long relationship with all these beats along the way and experiences, and then we get married, and about 10 months into our marriage, I discovered that she's having an inappropriate relationship with her manager. And I like to joke to say it's a tale as old as time, but it happens. So anyways, like, my whole life exploded and changed very radically in a moment. One message changed everything. So on the day, fast forward, kind of go through all that. On the day that we decide to wrap everything up and officially annul our marriage together, I go to this beach party in San Diego, and I'm hanging out and I'm relaxing and trying to unravel what's just happened, and I decide I need a little bit of space. I need a moment to myself because I'm trying to basically pretend like nothing's wrong when everything's wrong. And I go out into the ocean and I just kind of like lay there and float, and I hear this voice say, go do stand-up comedy. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. That's something I've always been into and interested in. So sure, I'll go throw my, all this new time that I have into stand-up comedy. So what happens next is its own story in and of itself, but it's during COVID when I decided to start doing stand-up comedy, and I start a show in my backyard with my roommate, and it's this really fantastic comedy fantasy that we go on, and a show that starts with 17 people in my yard, turns into 650 people on the beach. I'm getting chased around by the cops in San Diego for doing these illegal comedy shows, and it's just like the most ridiculous thing ever. And I have like a full-time job at the time. So it's the most reckless I've ever been in my life, but it was amazing and fun and awesome, and terrible probably all at the same time. So all of that happens, but inside of that show, I meet this amazing woman named Abby. And I'm able to be like so radically transparent with her, unapologetically myself, like wearing my all the skeletons that I have in my closet. I'm wearing them, and nothing's scaring her away from me. And I find love. I find love in a way I didn't. I honestly didn't know was possible. And I looked back and I was like ashamed of the fact that I thought that I was in love, and now I'm like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. So anyways, that like radically changes my perspective on my life out in San Diego and what I was doing and where I was going. And her and I were like, you know what? We want to have a family. We want to have a life together. And we decide that we want to do that in Nashville, Tennessee, because it's an entertainment city, but then also she has family here. We're like, all right, we'll go to Nashville. It makes sense. So what was really interesting is we make that decision on, a Sunday afternoon in her apartment. And at that point, I have no options to move here. Like, my company doesn't have an office here. I'm like thinking it's going to take me years to, potentially like network and find the right job that's going to get me to Nashville. Well, the next morning, I find out that there's one guy that's living here in Nashville who's the market development leader for my company, because he's starting a Nashville office. So I ping that guy at about 10 in the morning, and then by 2 in the afternoon, we're having a conversation that essentially turns into an interview, and he basically tells me, when do you want to come? Like, I need you here yesterday. So what starts off is like, oh, it's going to take 2 years to get here. We're moving like at the end of that week. Like, we make this huge decision, we get out here. So like, oh, the wind's at our back, like, the universe, oh, it's all guiding us and it's all meant to be and all these things. So we land in Nashville, settle into our life. We get married here. A very fortuitous fire drill happens in our apartment complex where I meet this young lady named Chrissy, who ends up becoming a really good friend, and we bond over the fact that we both have golden retriever dogs. Well, Chrissy shares with me that she goes to a church in town, and that like idea like planted itself in my head. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, she goes to church. Like, we're in the Bible Belt. People go to church. Great. Like, that's awesome for her. No judgment there. Great person. And she never brings it up again. And then it was probably, 6 months, 8 months. It could have been a full year after she initially shared this and we met. I wake up one morning. It was February 10th of 2023. I wake up and I'm like, I have this weird feeling, and I'm like, I think I want to go to church. And I tell this to my wife, and she's like, okay, that's interesting. Like, I'm happy for you. She grew up going to church all the time, and she's like, okay, that's wonderful. Like, why would I not support this? You probably need it. So then that Sunday, our friend Chrissy comes and picks us up and decides that she's going to be like our escort and make sure we know where to park, and they kind of usher us in there. And then we go in, and the worship music starts playing, and there's this song that's called More Than Able. And as the music's playing, they get to this one part in the song where it goes, he's not done with you yet. He's not done with you yet. He's not done with you yet. And it keeps repeating. And I have, and now that I've spent more time with people in and around the church, I have this wave come over me. It's very overwhelming. It's a loving buzz, is the best way to describe it. I almost felt like I was floating, and I start having this rush of images from my life where I'm basically seeing everything from the perspective of where was God in that moment. And it's really overwhelming. Like, it's like immense gratitude and love, and I'm seeing faces and people, and I'm having all these, I'm reliving all these experiences all at once in like a flash this quick flash of moments, and then where it where it ends up is it goes back to that moment on the beach, which is why I told that long-winded story about the comedy thing. Is God says to me, he goes, "That was me. I told you to do that, not so that you could go off to be some famous comedian and, producer, director guy. I set that plan in motion that day to get you here, to reestablish your relationship with me." And I started crying uncontrollably. And I don't even think my wife had ever seen me cry like that, for sure, but maybe ever. And it was just a very beautiful moment in my life. And I share this testimony because 2 weeks later I found out that my wife was pregnant. And we had literally just opened the door to the idea of having children. And it all felt too perfect that right before I was about to start my journey as a father for the first time, that I would get blessed with this opportunity to reestablish my relationship with the Father. And what ensued over the next, rest of my life, I guess the next year and a half, 2 years, was just meeting amazing people, learning such incredible wisdom from the teachings of the Bible. And there's been so much magic. I can't even begin to describe how much better my life got after that moment. And all this magic that happened. And I do think it's important to say, it's not everything's always perfect, but I think God knows me, and he knew how he had to show up for me to really believe, because like I said earlier, there wasn't a really strong foundation or base or expectation that I really needed to believe. No one expected that of me. So it was, I felt very fortunate, very lucky, but I think the reason why I wanted to share this testimony is, one, to explain to people, why I'm suddenly producing a podcast called Challenge the Faith and sharing my testimony, but more importantly, because I just want to encourage anybody who's even just feeling mildly curious or skeptical to explore that, and to, pick up a Bible and read it, or take a moment to pray and just see what it does for your life. Because I don't know, it's been a pretty amazing enhancement to my experience. So I think that's everything I wanted to share in this iteration of this. But I just say thank you to God for not being done with me yet.